Welcome to Superstar Unfiltered channel. Today I'm talking about the Chow's Walking, based on the first in a trilogy of young adults novels by Patrick Ness. Chow's Walking is a science fiction western set on a colonized planet where men's thought can be heard by others. There's a fertile starting place for a genre of film, and the premiere is integrally visualized by Ness, co-screenwriter Christopher Ford, and the director Doug Liman, with characters' thoughts and feelings swirling about their heads in a purple-blue, red-like haze that evokes scientists' model of how airborne infections are spread. Every character with these afflictions suggests a mood ring when seen from a distance. There are shots of angry mobs where you can see their bad thoughts pulsing. You also hear individual thoughts in snippets of voice-over narration, popping in and out of conversation in the manner of an anxious comic book character. Thought balloons, keep walking, keep walking. Don't let them know she's in the barn. This is all referred to as noise. We are getting ahead of ourselves. This review hasn't even described what the movie is about yet, but it's easy to do because Chow's Walking is more satisfying to think about than it is to watch. A theme of two Disney franchise stars, Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. Chow's Walking takes place sometime in the future. Earthlings have left their degraded homeworld to seed new systems. Holland's character, Todd Hewitt, is the native teenage son of a farmer in a small village, Prestonstown, on a backwater planet. The colonies here appear to have been forgotten about. There are no women inside. We are told that the indigenous population killed all the women, including Todd's mother, during a war between themselves and the colonizers. The mayor of the village, Matt Mickelson's David Pretensis, has built a religion of enforced, ritualized hypermasculinity, with men affirming that they derive strength from the noise around their heads, chastising themselves and each other for showing weakness and expressing feelings, and prosecuting any man who does on grounds that he is acting like a woman. Ridley's character, Viola Aid, falls into this macho cesspool when the spacecraft bearing her toward the planet malfunctions, depositing her in the woods outside of a town, the sole survivor of a brutal crash. Of course, Todd finds her and develops a crush on her, and it's only a matter of time before he has to protect her against an all-male mob, most of which has never seen a real-life girl before. Viola doesn't need protection, really. She is mechanically capable and can fight. But she doesn't need a guide through the wilderness to take her to find the transmitter left over from a previous mission, which will enable her to call for help. Pretty soon, we're in a territory of a benevolent science drama like E.T. or Starman, revolving around a psychically bonded duo, one of which is more highly evolved than the other. Of course, it is debatable which two is better equipped for survival. Todd is more proficient fighter and killer, but the noise in his head keeps giving away his position, as well as the thoughts he wants to keep private. The sci-fi elements coexist with the wilderness survival picture aspect, as well as fragments of an old-fashioned Hollywood western about the politics of civilization in frontier built on colonized land. There's a love story too, sort of, although Todd's basically sexless, pre-adolescent way of relating to women, and Ridley is super capable. Big sisterly vibes, also her energy in the Star Wars movies, ensure that any chemistry between them is suppressed or redirected. It's frustrating that Crosswalking barely delves into the backstory of indigenous race of humanoids that were beaten into submission by the humans and supposedly burdened the surviving humans with audible, visible thoughts, as if cursing them for the sins they committed. We meet one of the natives in a brief, violent action scene. He is missing an arm from the elbow down, But then there's a lot of detail that gets skimmed away is in the urgent push to get violent thought to the transmitter. Lyman's deftness at staging large-scale yet intimate action scenes occupy spaces that might been better served with more world-building and philosophical theological debate, as well as more insight to the history of the colonized world, which resonates with stories of genocide against indigenous people inside the United States and in countries overseas. Australia and Japan make great westerns too, and alludes to mythological and scripture. Thorne is often pictured eating apples, yet it's the man in the film who have been denied knowledge. There's also not too subtle commentary on the differences between masculinity and femininity. This is particularly frustrating given that Ridley and Holland are delivering superb unaffected performances as characters that we really do care about, in an environment that's been built out just enough to make you fixate on the tantalizing unanswered questions that the film is never going to do more than glance at. The undernourished aspects include the toxic masculinity cult that Prentice has built up and encouraged. His chief acolyte, played by David Oyelowo, is a firebrand who has internalized everything the high priest taught him, become the radically revolutionary who already thinks he make a better leader of him, and Mickelson's approach to this underwritten character is mesmerizing, as is often the case with his performer, spending most of the film running on horseback, wearing a lush, long fur coat and floppy brim hat which channels all the decadent fops that Marlon Brando played after middle age, and delivering the lines in a combination pouring hero cadence and frontier drawl. He's always perched on the knife's edge of hamminess. But it's impossible to deny that somehow, mysteriously, like Lebenswe rug, he ties the whole thing together. Kudos to Lehman and his collaborators for showing us something we haven't exactly seen before, outside of a few stray scenes or sequels in the telepathic horror or superhero pictures, where the main characters have to learn how to selectively screen out the data that their highly advanced sense brain are waking up. But once you immerse, it's a powerful experience that lingers in the mind long after the film many disappointments have started to fade. How can a person last even an hour in a world like this, one without going mad or making another man want to kill them? To quote Bob Dylan, she's right, Ma, I'm only building. If my thought dreams could have been, you put my head in a glutathione.